for these Afghan refugees. Joining me now is Mark Hetfield. He's the president and CEO of HIAS, who is focused on this issue of Afghan refugees right now to discuss this. So, Mark, first of all, I know you've got a lot of contacts on the ground. What are you hearing about safety and security and the ability to get out right now?
Well, Chuck, there is no safety and security, and there is no ability to get out right now. Even for people who are U.S. citizens, even for people who are lawful permanent residents or special immigrant visa holders, let alone the many vulnerable people, religious minorities, activists, people associated with U.S. media or U.S. NGOs, they can't get out right now.
There's 250,000 Afghans. We know there's some Afghan Americans that can get out now, but they can't bring their families with them. Explain that struggle. Is this more having to do with the Taliban or more having to do with our SIV process?
It has everything to do with our SIV process. We had 20 years to prepare for this not unlikely outcome, and it wasn't done. And so as a result, we are now scrambling, and there is a cascading effect because we're scrambling to help these SIVs who laid their lives down for American soldiers. We now are not paying enough attention to the other people who are vulnerable and need assistance. So this is an absolute disaster. Refugees have to stop being an afterthought in U.S. foreign policy. It should be in the front of everybody's minds when we go into a situation like this 20 years ago.
In fact, when we hear the president say, look, we're getting every American who wants to get out, the ones that say they don't want to get out, it's your understanding, are most of them Afghan Americans who are not ready to leave because they can't bring their family with them? They want to get out, they just can't get out by themselves. Is that a better way to put it?
Exactly. And most SIVs hightailed it out of Afghanistan as soon as they got the status to do so. I mean, the SIV process, it's a 14-step process. And God knows if you were associated with the U.S. military, you're not going to leave your family behind. So that's exactly it. There's just no leadership on this issue right now, Chuck. There's no special envoy who's overseeing the humanitarian evacuation, the SIV process, and the refugee process. There's nobody at the UN who reports to the Secretary General looking at this stuff either. I don't understand why, but there has to be some leadership on this issue. There has to be somebody with authority.
Well, walk us through the scope of what you expect in the next year when it comes to Afghan refugees. I mean, we're talking about, so we have 250,000 Afghans who have a direct connection to the United States operation who deserve some sort of special status. Well, we're going to have a couple million Afghans who want to, who are the next level down, can't get that special, can't qualify for the special visa, but certainly aren't going to feel as if the Taliban are friendly to them. How many do you expect to try to get out, and where do you expect them to try to go?
Well, I mean, there needs to be a humanitarian corridor established to get people out, whether that's an air corridor or a land corridor. But it's very tough to leave Afghanistan in the winter. It's almost impossible by land. So people are going to be trapped there. And that needs to be a multinational force. And if the U.S. is going to leave at the end of the month, I don't know how that's going to happen. But we've seen this show before. Unfortunately, and we know that there's going to be hundreds and thousands or more fleeing for Pakistan and Tajikistan and Iran. And if you go to Iran, good luck trying to get to the United States from Iran.
Obviously, the rise in this nationalism, particularly in Eastern and Central Europe, has made these refugee and migrant flows even more complicated. Are you having a hard time? I mean, even the politics in our country, you want to know why we don't have a czar on refugees? I might point to our current politics when it comes to what's happened on this issue, particularly on the right side of our political spectrum. Are you having more trouble with Western nations being open to taking in these refugees?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, that's the problem is we have refugees that are trying. Well, they're not refugees yet because they're stuck in Afghanistan. They're trying to get out. They have flights lined up. They have planes lined up, but they have no place to go. So people aren't flying out. So absolutely, they have absolutely no place to go, whether it's the United States or a country in Europe or in the Middle East. There's just no, it's a St. Louis situation, but people aren't even able to leave Afghanistan. And when I say St. Louis, I mean the ship of German.
Right. Jewish German refugees turned away. before World War II. Let me ask you this. Who do you deal with in the administration, and who would you like to get some more FaceTime with? I mean, it does sound like you're a bit at your wit's end here.
Well, the thing with the refugee program, one of the flaws of it is its accountability spread across multiple agencies: the State Department, Health and Human Services, Homeland Security, then multiple vetting agencies, law enforcement agencies, and intelligence agencies, and then they need the Department of Defense to implement right now, right? And so there's no one person. There needs to be somebody who reports to the president who can coordinate all of these different pieces. I mean, that's what's missing here. So the person I should be talking to doesn't exist. And
that's basically what you're arguing for, is that there needs to be almost a single person put in charge right now, because this is turning into a bureaucratic calamity, is what you're describing.
Absolutely. Who reports to the president and can really make things happen.
All right. Mark Hetfield, the head of HIAS, who is working tirelessly on this refugee situation, what in some ways we hope becomes a refugee situation, because it means these folks were able to actually get out of Afghanistan. Mark, thanks for coming on and expressing your perspective with us.
Thank you, Chuck.